Sveiki, mani sauc Lolita Epnere, un es esmu komunikācijas koordinātore projektam Izglītības kvalitātes monitoringa sistēma. Un monitoringa sistēmas ietvaros mums vakar bija Latvijas datu prezentācija pasākumu ietvaros, kas saucās Īsumā par izglītību, kas gan ir tulkojums no Education at a Glance. Education at a Glance ir ikgadējs pasākums, kas notiek septembrī, un kas apskata 36 OECD valstu datus par izglītību. Un šoreiz šajā pasākumā mums pārstāv Eriks Šarbonjē.
Perfect.
Okay, great. I think it's better that you introduce yourself more with your title and everything you do regarding education at a glance and monitoring system as well.
I will try to be quick because I'm working for OECD for 25 years now. I'm like a dinosaur of the education directorate. So I'm working on the publication Education at a Glance from the beginning. And what is interesting, this is to see the development, the improvement of data year after year. When we started 25 years ago, it was difficult to have any single indicator with more than 10 countries. Now we have really international comparison with the 38 OECD countries, plus accession country, plus some G20 countries that are non-OECD countries. So we are able to have really the material to do a good comparison of education system.
Okay, it's a very simplifying question. So you're a data analyst, right?
Yes.
This process.
Yes, I'm born with data.
And
I sleep with data, and my time is with data. But I'm also an analyst. I try with data to finally be able to interpret the data and to give a simple explanation about education systems. That's my work because, you know, data are sometimes really complex, and the work of OECD analysts is to make the data easy to interpret for users, easy to understand for policymakers, in order that our data are transformed in terms of public policies.
Yeah, and yesterday we had Latvian data presentation. I'll read what is Education at a Glance, so everyone knows if we don't. Education at a Glance is the authority's source for information on the state of education around the world. It provides data on the structure, finance, and performance of education system across OECD countries and number of partner economies, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yes. So I'll probably move on with all the questions I have written here, okay? So this is your first time in Latvia, as far as I know.
First time in Riga.
And what are your first impressions? I know that yesterday the whole day was actually in this forum, Skillman. Did you manage to catch up with?
That's the interest of this big forum. You can exchange ideas and you can see the country because I have seen during this day yesterday that there's a strong regional identity in Latvia. I was really interested to see the different region, tradition, culture. That's something that is really important for a country, and also you see that education is important, and
it gives context, right, for the system. You see just like on the paper, okay, data.
Exactly. That makes a big difference. For example, I was walking in the street yesterday, and I have seen that Riga is ready for the green transition. I have seen also that digital transformation is starting in Riga, is in good shape in comparison to other countries. So it's always when you visit a country, you can start to understand also what are the challenges, but also what are the strengths of the country. And on your second question on the Skillman Forum, it's a possibility to exchange with people of national offices in Latvia, but also international researchers, and you can see that vocational education and training is now a key topic in most of the countries. That was not the case a decade ago. A decade ago, the communication was only about academic program, but now there's an international reflection about the strengths of vocational education and training, how to develop the program, how to prepare the student to be good employees on the labor market. And the Skillman Forum was an opportunity to discuss with other people, other countries about what they are doing.
Thank you. You're working for Indicators of Education System Program, contributing to development of Education at a Glance report. How would you explain why education indicators are important?
Without indicator, you cannot compare your country to the other. For example, we released the first PISA report in 2000, and before France and Germany in Europe had the feeling to have the best education system in the world. And when we released the PISA report, their performance was just average. The equity was a disaster. And they start to discuss, to look at why Finland, Korea had better performance. So international comparison, that's exactly that. By comparing your country to the other, you can see your strength, you can see your weaknesses, and you can start to implement policy reform that are finally based on facts and evidences.
So basically everyone is waiting with the fear and excitement, the data you provide, right?
Yes, now that was also because in Education at a Glance you have more than 100,000 figures. So every country can find an interest for one indicator. In Latvia we discuss a lot about teacher salary, in France about the instruction time, in Australia about the tuition fees in tertiary education. Education at a Glance is covering all these dimensions, and so finally it's an open door for a discussion about international comparison.
So let's focus to Latvia.
There's a lot to say about Latvia.
Yeah, no. What is your assessment? What Education at a Glance indicators tell about education system in Latvia?
In fact, it's never easy to make a comparison in 1 or 2 minutes, but we see some concrete strengths in the Latvian education system. The first one, there's a real investment in early ages. Enrollment rate at age 3 is universal in Latvia. That's better than in many other countries. And we know that if you don't invest in early ages, you will have problems in terms of equity in your education system. So that's a good point. The second good point,
good.
Yes, I start always with the positive aspect. After I will,
Thank you. Okay.
I will give some challenges, but the second positive aspect is also the increase in the level of education attainment of the population. 46% of the population aged 25-34 has attained tertiary education. It's a big progress in comparison to 2 decades ago. And now Latvia is at the level of the OECD average. And that's really important because education is the best protection against crisis. And you see that employment opportunities are increasing with the level of education that you attain. But there's also some weaknesses.
I can guess.
You want to know?
Yeah, I already know our weaknesses from presentation and yesterday, and so it's probably something to do with salaries, right? So, next question: teacher salaries are actively discussed issue in Latvia. They are being raised in a regular basis, but they're still relatively low. So, you analyze the factors that influence teachers' salaries. What would be your advice to make the situation better?
First of all, the problem with teacher salary is not only a problem in Latvia, it's a problem in many European countries because the teacher salary is not as good as the salary of other workers with a tertiary qualification. So this is a challenge for EU country. After, it's true that in Latvia, teachers' salary are particularly low in comparison to other countries. They are in improvement. If you compare the data between 2015 and 22, you see a big progress in Latvia, but they are still too low. And that's a problem for the attractiveness of the teaching profession. So that's a challenge today. to think how to improve the teacher salary. There's no one unique answer solution to that, but you can think how to make some economy maybe on other aspects of the education. That's the case in some country. They try to increase the class size, for example. That's a way you increase the class size and you increase the teacher salary. If you have more students per classroom, you need less teachers, and so you can increase their salary. That's a choice that has been made by many countries. There's a reflection to have, I think.
You just answered to my next question.
Sorry.
No, it's good. Yeah. So, what changes appearance in education today? People are learning in a wide variety of environments, including outside education institutions. What is the role of education institution in ever-changing world?
Education is a key. It's a key for economic growth. It's something that is relevant. You see in education at a glance statistics that higher is your level of education, better are your labor market opportunities, better are your earning, but also you are more engaged in the civic society, you trust more the others. There's many aspects that shows that you need to educate the young generation to make them some good citizen in the world of 21 century. That's something that is really important, and the advantage with the OECD statistic is you can follow this aspect, the progress in education, and also the development of skill is not limited to what you learn in education system. It's something that should have a lifelong learning perspective. You need to continue to have access to professional development once you are in a company, because that's the key to make you a citizen, happy in life and also happy in your work. And that's what we see in OECD statistics. That's not always the good people who are able to have access to this lifelong learning perspective in development of skills. We see, for example, that the adult with the lower qualification, the older people have less access to professional development than the other. And that's really a pity, because we need also provide a professional development for all the parts of the population.
Yes, thank you. What is your assessment of what changes are taking place in countries that prioritize education?
Yes, that's the key to prioritize education, but it's not only a question of money. What we have seen is that there's some country with average spending on education, like Finland, who have really good outcome of education. So you need to allocate the money where there is a need. And what we see in education statistics, this is if you prioritize early ages, if you invest in pre-primary education, primary education, if you prioritize disadvantaged school to the advantaged school, if you prioritize teachers, that means you invest on the teaching profession, on teachers and their professional development, you have more chance to have a better outcome, better performance, and also more equity in your education system.
Exactly, it's a complex thing.
Yes.
The system should be in place, the right system for that. Right. In Latvia, we are developing education quality monitoring system. Can education at a glance somehow contribute to education quality monitoring?
Yes, that's exactly that. We have a framework of indicators. They are organized by category. We look at the input, the financing of education. We look at the outcome, the employment, the earning. We look at what is happening within the school, the enrollment, the access to professional program, the possibility to continue education. By having this framework, we are able to compare the education system. But I will tell you that education at a glance is not sufficient. It's only one product, but there's many other interested interesting studies in OECD. You have the PISA study with the assessment of 15 years old. You have the TALI study when you can see many information about teachers working in primary and lower secondary education. You have also PIAC survey when you will see in 2024 the numeracy, literacy, and digital skills of the adults. Latvia will participate for the first time to PIAC. It will be an interesting source of data. All these surveys together, organized in a framework of indicator, can give you a picture about strengths, weaknesses, challenges, and public policies to implement.
Thank you. It really all contributes to monitoring system in Latvia. Thank you for collaborating with us in all these projects.
But thank you also to you, because you know education at a glance and other product is the fruit of a cooperation between countries and OECD. We have meeting with all the countries 2 times per year to discuss the indicator, to discuss the need of countries, and countries are submitted the data. This is because of that, of this good cooperation, that we have quality data, and we see for Latvia big improvement in data quality since the first participation in Education at a Glance 2014. Every year we have more and more.
We're learning too.
Yes, and that's really the interest of international comparison, this cooperation aspect.
Your program also develops a dashboard of equity indicators. How would you convince a country that is developing education quality monitoring system that it should also think about monitoring of equity in education?
In fact, without equity in your education system, you cannot have good performance of the education system. When you look at PISA results, the countries that have the best performance have also equity in their education systems. That means when you come from a disadvantaged families, you have the same education opportunities than the other. So in fact, it was important to have this equity dashboard to look at how the countries stand on the different dimensions of equity. If also a country are good in terms of inclusion, if when you come from a disadvantaged family, if you have some special education needs, if you have also the same opportunity. And there's some interesting figures about Latvia. First of all, for disadvantaged students are relatively good performance in comparison to advantaged students. That's good. That means you have equity on this dimension. In terms of gender equity, you are at the level of the average, but there's some challenges with inclusion. 41, I think, % of the students in the PISA study said they have been trouble with bullying during a few months before the PISA survey. This is one of the highest proportion. You see also that the students have a low sense of belonging in school, a low identification to school. They feel sometimes lonely, like outsiders. So there's really a challenge for Latvia in terms of inclusion.
It's a very, very complex problem.
Yeah, but in many countries, that's really what is interesting with PISA. It's also to look at trend data, and we see that there's more and more problem of bullying in many countries, and that's the challenges.
It's very worrying, actually.
Yeah.
And there are no like clear ideas as a solution.
Yeah, it should be, and also education cannot solve all the problems. Sometimes this is linked to society, to the difficulty that we have in the world of the 21st century. But that's an aspect that is also important to monitor, and it's why the equity dashboard is looking at all this information about inclusion and equity.
I do believe that sometimes when you look at one thing, you get information about other aspects in other areas, right?
Yes.
Society. It's not that, if we look here, then this is our responsibility to solve this problem because we are just the ones who are looking.
Yeah.
But we need to share our knowledge and everything what we can get out of these data.
Yes, that's exactly what we want to do. It's why this year the theme was vocational education and training, to show also that Latvia has made big progress in terms of access, in terms of possibility to follow the studies with an upper secondary vocational qualification, in terms of employment opportunities for the young, and also we identify some challenges in terms of earning of the graduate on the labor market that are low in comparison to tertiary graduate and also in comparison to other countries. So that's the interest to put on the table all these statistics, to try to explain them. And after, this is you, Ministry of Education, national offices, to discuss with your minister and to push for reform and for improvement of the weaknesses.
Yeah, and we're close to finish, but I have the last question for you.
That's always the most difficult, normally, the last question.
What is perhaps the most important idea or lesson you have gained from working in the Indicators of Education System program?
This is what I said, that's the most difficult in 2 minutes to summarize.
Because you have this long life experience and a lot of lessons.
What we have seen, there's a big difference between education system. That's normal. Every country should find its own way and have their own culture, and that's important to keep that. But working for 20 years on that, we have seen some public policies that can be efficient to have a good education system. You should, as I said during the interview, invest in the early years. That's really the key. If you don't invest in early years, you will have school difficulties. You need to invest on teaching profession. This is what we said at OECD. Quality of an education system is never exceeding the quality of its teachers. So you need to invest in teachers in terms of salary, but also in terms of professional development. You need also to have a good and strong, well-developed vocational education and training. It's also important because there's a need for the good technician, high qualified technician in the society today. There's labor market shortages on many fields. And last, what is important, it's also to well allocate the money in disadvantaged school, in disadvantaged area, to have a kind of equity. And I will finish by something that that is not a new recommendation, but after 20 years, I see that sometimes in many countries, parliamentarians, when they are voting legislation or laws, they have the feeling that the work is finished. But finally, the most difficult is starting, because the success of a public policy, this is the implementation in a country. In school, you need to engage teachers, school principals in the reforms that you want to implement. And when you succeed to do that, first of all, you create a confidence between a politician and education actor, and you have more chance to succeed and to improve the performance of your education system.
Continuity is the key, right?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time and this lovely interview we had today.
Thank you.
And I really hope that you will come back to Riga and you will have a comparison with this time. I would be happy to hear your thoughts on our situation in a couple of years.
Yes, and next year the topic of education at a glance is equity. So it will be important. To see if Latvia improve on inclusion is always as good on equity.
So we have a little time to work on that.
You have 1 year.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the interview.